Hi, and welcome back to Point Serve, the very first podcast of Cross Point Church in Beckley, West Virginia. My name is Vondie. I'm the lead pastor here, and we started Point Serve to achieve some things. There's some things we wanted to help with as we thought about another podcast. What do we hope to accomplish with that? And what we're hoping to give you is practical wisdom, regardless of where you are in a leadership position, whether it is in the sacred or the secular, whether it's in church space or the marketplace. We want to do our very best to pour into you ways and ideas that we can help you be a much better leader than you are right now, because we believe, especially for those leaders that walk with Jesus Christ, God has placed you in a leadership position. He's placed you where you are to uniquely touch people in the place you find yourself. We've talked about all kinds of different things in the past, and today we're going to add something that came from the Irresistible Church Network. Something that I read here a few months ago that I believe is just too valuable not to share with you today. Because all of us have gauges in our cars, right? All of us have gauges that we look at. Some of them are just warning lights. I prefer gauges so that you can see when a problem is coming. We have gauges for our speed. We have gauges for how much gasoline is in there, how warm the engine is. We've got all kinds of gauges to tell us how that engine is functioning and it's operating. And I believe that there are gauges that help us recognize the values of our leadership. I believe there are some gauges that you and I look at each and every day when it comes to being a leader. I believe that there are gauges that maybe you've not thought about it in this way, but as we're talking through this and we're walking through this together, if there is something that kind of jumps out at you, I would ask you that you would take this particular podcast and that you would share it with a friend, that you would like it, because if we don't start getting some likes on YouTube, they're not going to welcome us as much as they already do. So if you're getting something out of Point Serve, please like it and then share it. Share it on your YouTube or your Facebook page. Share it so that other people can understand that. But as a leader, the first gauge I want to talk to you about is vision. Vision, because you can look at your car. The biggest gauge that you have to look at is your windshield. And when you look out that windshield and you see what's coming, you see what's up ahead of you, you begin to pay attention to that. As a leader, you've got to have a clear vision as to what you're leading. Because if you don't have a clear vision, somebody will come along and they will give you a vision. Somebody will come along and say to you, this is what you should be gauging. This is what you're able to do. And as a leader, have the vision and communicate it. Now, you don't have to know every aspect and every tiny part of that. You as the leader have to have the overall umbrella picture of what you want to see happen there. Here at Crosspoint, one of our overarching vision gauges is that we desire to impact 1% of our area on every Sunday. We want to impact that because we believe as we are able to impact that larger group of people, it will then have a much greater impact, a greater spiritual footprint in our area. So that's the vision. That's what we strive for. Everything that we do, from our nursery to our nursing home, all of those pieces fit together to make that vision a reality. Point Serve and other online media, other printed media, other things that we do throughout the week, all of that is designed to help impact and carry out that vision. So as a leader, make sure you have a good idea what that vision is for your department, for the store that you're the manager of, for the team that you're leading, for yourself first, and then when you get to a leadership position, you will be ready to step forward with that. But that's a gauge. The second gauge is integrity. Being a person of integrity. Having a way that you live your life, that what you say, what you do, as a leader, you are honest, you are trustworthy, and you are transparent. When you mess up, admit it. When somebody else needs honest help, that you help them. You see, people will hold on to more of what you do than what you say. People will really try to see if what you're doing, what you're saying, if those two pieces tie together. And when they don't, then that really hurts us going forward. When they don't, that really hurts us, because I can tell you, as any organization that you have the vision for, that gauge, when you get to the gauge of integrity, you're going to have to adapt and change. And that's our third gauge, is adaptation. Integrity will always cause you to adapt, and it will always cause you to change. It will cause you to adjust. A great leader is able to adapt to changing circumstances and navigate uncertainty that still keeps them with the gauge of vision in mind, keeps them with the gauge of integrity in mind. But adaptation says, I have to adjust. I have to be able to calculate things. I have to look at the risks. I have to say, is this the next step? And here's what I also want you to, as you move up in your leadership, those risks always get bigger. They get bigger. The risks, they affect more people. There was a time in the life of Crosspoint when we were a small congregation, we could make a change in a week. Can't do that anymore. We have to make sure that more information gets out, more people know, all the different processes happen. When we went to 3 services for Easter Sunday, that took a long time to make sure that we got that information out. But we had the greatest number of souls in the building on that Easter Sunday than we have ever had in the history of the church. People are not wary of you adapting and changing. They just need to know in an authentic and a manner that carries integrity how that fits in with the vision. Adaptation is that third gauge. How are you at adapting? How are you at changing? I'm 58 years old now. I have a tendency not to desire to change as much as maybe I used to. Yet there's another part of me that says, I've lived probably more years than I have ahead of me. If I don't adapt and change now, it may never happen. So being a leader who's able to adapt and change and step forward. And also, in all of that, to have a gauge of empathy, because not everybody can adapt and change as easily as others do. Not everybody can. They struggle with it. Because as we do get older, we have a tendency for our world to get smaller. The things that we focus on to get smaller. The things that we pay attention to gets a smaller and smaller and smaller group, to where that becomes much more important than it did before. We've got to make sure that we walk through our leadership with an empathetic eye and allowing ourselves to put on the shoes of somebody else, and to see all of those things and the changes, not just in the organization you leave, but the changes in their lives and the struggles that they face in their lives. Heard one time a football coach said he never knew to be a D1 coach you had to have a degree in psychology. Well, as you're a leader, you may not have had a psychology degree, but I'll guarantee you that empathy will help you lead people more and more and more in a way that they can sense it and hear it. So you look at the gauge of vision. You look at the gauge of integrity. You look at the gauge of adaptability. You look at the gauge of empathy. But then the last gauge, I would kind of equate it to the speedometer on the car, and that's to be decisive. As a leader, you have to make decisive decisions. That does not mean that you don't process it, you don't take it in, you don't allow yourself to walk through the things that you need. No, you do your due diligence. But then once you find what you believe is the right course of action, and it fits with the vision, you can do it with integrity. It may require some adaptation. It may require some empathy to help folks walk through that with you. But you decisively make the change. You decisively do that. You bring in the options. You gather your key team members around you. But then you take action. And you see, that's the part of leadership that we don't hear so much about, is once I take action, then I have to deal with whatever that action brings to bear. I have to walk through that. I have to move forward with that. I have to allow myself to know it's the right decision. Because every decision will be faced with some resistance. But if you know in your heart it's the right one, if you've prayed about it, if you've sought the best counsel, if you've asked God for what is the right step at the right time for your business, for the church that you're leading, or the ministry that you're leading, or the department that you're leading, when you trust Him for that and you've done all of that, then you step out. Then you are like those guys who were the Levites, and they carried the Ark of the Covenant when Israel was going to go into the Promised Land. You see, these guys had to step into the Jordan River at flood stage. Sometimes leaders say, can't somebody else do this? You're in the leadership position to lead and step and change and move. But to adapt with integrity and empathy and vision. But do it decisively in a way that everybody knows what's happening next. Because when you do, people will know you've thought it through. And they will know that you are the leader that they need at this place, at this moment. Thank you so much for tuning in to Point Serve today. Thank you for paying attention to it. As I said earlier, if you like this today, if you got something out of this today, please like it and share it. Because until we get enough people sharing this, we don't get some of the perks and it gets on a wider audience with YouTube. We need your help. That's part of the vision of Point Serve, is to get out there for more people to know. And we need your help. So would you make a decisive decision today to not only like it, but share it? This is Vondie Cook, lead pastor at Cross Point Church, and this is Point Serve. Our production team is led by Mike Smith, and we just thank him for all that he does to make this happen. Go out there and lead, because God's placed you there for such a time as this. This is Point Serve from Cross Point Church in Beckley, West Virginia.